Jake Morrison walked through the long metal halls of Nexus Prime, the biggest space station in the galaxy. His boots made soft sounds on the floor as he hurried to the meeting room. Other aliens moved past him, talking in their strange languages. Most of them did not even look at him. Jake was used to this by now. He had been the human leader on this station for 3 years. In all that time, the other species treated humans like children who did not belong here. They thought humans were weak and stupid. The meeting room was huge, with a round table in the center. Representatives from all the major species sat in their special chairs. The Kethver sat tall and proud, their gray skin covered in battle scars. The Zephyrians floated in their energy suits, their blue forms glowing softly. The ancient Val barely moved, their old eyes watching everything. Jake took his seat at the small human section. His chair was smaller than the others. Even the furniture showed how little the galaxy thought of humanity. "The meeting will begin," announced Coordinator Veltar, a Valdris who had lived for over 1,000 years. "The Kethver Empire requests permission to establish security zones in the outer systems." General Vekmer stood up. His voice was deep and threatening. "Pirates attack innocent traders every day. The Coalition does nothing. We will bring order to these systems." Jake knew this was a lie. The Kethver did not care about pirates. They wanted to take over more territory, but when he tried to speak, the other representatives ignored him. Ambassador Lisa Grant, the human diplomat, raised her hand. "The Coalition Charter says no single species can claim neutral systems without a vote." The Zephyrian representative, Dr. Zixala, made a sound like laughing. "Humans worry about rules while people die. How typical." "The Valdris have protected trade routes for centuries," said Elder Mordain. "We see no need for Kethver intervention." Jake stood up. "What about the human colonies near Kethver space? They need protection too." The room went quiet. Then several aliens started making sounds that Jake recognized as their version of laughing. Human colonies. General Vekmer smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Perhaps, if humans had built real defenses instead of farms, they would not need our help." "The Kethver speak truth," said Dr. Zixala. "Humans contribute little to galactic defense. Why should we protect those who cannot protect themselves?" Jake felt his face get hot with anger. "We pay our coalition fees. We follow all the rules. We deserve the same protection as everyone else." Elder Mordain closed his ancient eyes. "Protection is earned through strength, young human. Your species has shown neither military power nor technological advancement. The galaxy cannot waste resources on every primitive world." Lisa tried to help. "The Coalition was built on the idea that all species deserve safety. Size and strength should not matter." "A noble thought," said Coordinator Veltar, "but resources are limited. The Coalition must protect the systems that contribute most to galactic stability." The meeting went on for hours. The Kethver got permission to patrol the outer systems. Every time humans asked for protection, they were told to submit forms and wait for review. Jake knew those forms would disappear into the Coalition bureaucracy and never be seen again. After the meeting, Jake walked back to his small office. The human section of the station was tiny compared to the other species areas. Earth had only been part of the Coalition for 30 years. In galactic terms, that was almost nothing. He activated the secure communication link to Earth. President Nathan Cross appeared on the screen, looking tired. "How did it go?" Cross asked. "Same as always," Jake said. "They treat us like we do not matter. The Kethver are moving toward our colonies, and no one cares." Cross was quiet for a moment. "What about our allies?" "We do not have any real allies," Jake said. "The other small species are too scared to speak up. The big three only care about themselves." "I see." Cross looked at someone off-screen. "Jake, I need you to gather all the intelligence you can on Kethver fleet movements." Quietly. "Why? What are you planning?" Maybe it is time we showed the galaxy that humans are not as helpless as they think. The connection ended. Jake stared at the blank screen, wondering what cross meant. Earth did not have a big military. Human technology was behind most other species. What could they possibly do against the mighty HFY Empire? Meanwhile, deep in Earth's asteroid belt, Dr. Kate Sullivan was working on something that would change everything. She had been leading a secret project for 15 years. The Coalition thought humans were primitive, but they were wrong. Humans thought differently than other species. They found solutions where others saw only problems. The project was called Pandora's Box, and it was almost ready. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake received a message on his personal communicator. It was from Captain Ryan Hayes, commander of the New Austin Colony Defense Force. Jake, we have a problem. HFY scouts were seen near our system yesterday. Our sensors picked up at least 12 ships. We only have 6 patrol boats and some mining equipment. If they attack, we cannot stop them. Jake closed his eyes. New Austin had 200,000 people, mostly farmers and their families. They had come to the colony to build a better life. Now they might die because the galaxy did not think humans were worth protecting. He sent a message back to Ryan. Hold your position. I will try to get Coalition support. But Jake knew it was hopeless. The Coalition would send forms to fill out and committees to study the problem. By the time they acted, New Austin would be gone. That night, Jake could not sleep. He stood by his window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human families were getting ready for bed, not knowing that alien warships were coming for them. The galaxy saw humans as weak and unimportant. Maybe it was time to prove them wrong. He did not know that on Earth. President Cross was making the biggest decision in human history. The secret weapon was ready, and humanity was done asking for help. General Deckmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the big windows. His fleet was the pride of the HFY Empire. 50 warships, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. The biggest ship could destroy a planet in minutes. General, said his aide, our scouts report the human colony of New Austin is poorly defended. 6 small patrol boats and some converted mining ships. Deckmar smiled. His teeth were sharp and white. Perfect. New recruits need easy targets to build confidence. How many humans live there? 200,000, mostly farmers and workers. Good. We will use this as a training exercise. The new plasma cannons need testing anyway, the HFY believed, in simple ideas. Hit hard, hit fast, and make the enemy too scared to fight back. It had worked for 300 years. Their empire controlled 1/4 of the galaxy because other species feared them. Captain Ryan Hayes stood in the command center of New Austin Colony. The room was small and cramped, nothing like the military bases he had seen in movies. Through the windows, he could see the farms that fed 500,000 people across 3 systems. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Cole, long-range sensors show the HFY fleet is 2 days away, maybe less. Ryan looked at the defense board. 6 patrol boats, each with light weapons and thin armor. 3 converted cargo ships with mining, lasers, some ground-based missile launchers that were already 20 years old. What about the Coalition? Asked Sergeant Mike Turner. Did they send help? Ryan shook his head. Jake Morrison tried. They told him to submit a formal request and wait for review. That could take months. Amy hit the table with her fist. Months. The HFY will be here in 2 days. I know, Ryan said quietly. Send a message to all defense units. We fight with what we have. The people of New Austin were not soldiers. They were farmers, engineers, doctors, and teachers who had come to build a new world. But they were also human, and humans did not give up easily. Over the next day, the colonists worked together to prepare. They moved the children to underground shelters. They set up hidden missile sites in the hills. The miners used their equipment to dig trenches and bunkers, Dr. Sarah Kim, the colony's medical chief, organized field hospitals. We cannot win a straight fight, she told her team, but we can make them pay for every inch. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Cross met with his top advisors in a secret room deep underground. The Global Defense Council had been planning for this day for years. The HFY attack on New Austin begins in 18 hours, said Admiral Ben Carter. Our intelligence says it is just the first target. They plan to take 5 human colonies to test their new weapons. What about the coalition? Asked Secretary of State Linda Park. Nothing, Cross said. They are still reviewing our request for protection. By the time they act, all our outer colonies will be gone. Dr. Kate Sullivan spoke for the first time. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. Pandora's box is ready for deployment. We can have it in position within 12 hours. Are you sure it will work? Cross asked. The tests have been perfect, but this will be the first time we use it in real combat. General Alex Price, the weapons operator, nodded. My team is ready, sir. We have practiced the procedures 1,000 times. Cross was quiet for a long moment. Using the weapon would change everything. Once the galaxy saw what humans could do, there would be no going back. Do it, he said finally. But first, let the HFY show their true nature. The galaxy needs to see what we are fighting against. Back at New Austin, the first HFY ships appeared in the sky. They were huge and dark, blotting out the sun. Captain Hayes watched them through his binoculars, counting the enemy vessels. 50 ships, he reported to his team. Maybe more. The HFY did not try to negotiate. They did not demand surrender. They simply opened fire. The first blast destroyed the main power station. The second took out the communication center. Within minutes, half the colony's defenses were gone. But the humans fought back. The patrol boats flew between the big enemy ships, firing missiles and laser bolts. They were too small and fast for the HFY to hit easily. For a few hours, it looked like the colonists might hold them off. Then the HFY brought out their planet-crackers. These weapons were designed to break through the crust of a world and destroy everything on the surface. General Deckmer had ordered them brought to New Austin as a test. Fire, he commanded. The beam that came down from space was brighter than the sun. When it hit the ground, it made a crater 5 miles wide. Everything in that area simply disappeared, Captain. Hayes and his defenders fought for 6 more hours. They used every trick they could think of. They hid in caves and struck from behind hills. They used the mining equipment to create landslides and block the enemy advance. But it was not enough. One by one, the human ships were destroyed. One by one, the defense positions fell silent. In the end, Captain Hayes made his last stand at the colony's main hospital, protecting the doctors and wounded. He died fighting, taking 3 HFY soldiers with him. When it was over, New Austin was gone. 200,000 people had lived there in the morning. By nightfall, the planet was empty, except for smoke and ruins. The attack was broadcast across the galaxy. The Coalition watched in horror as a peaceful farming world was destroyed. But they did nothing except call for more committees and more studies. On Earth, President Cross received the final transmission from New Austin. Captain Hayes' last words were simple. We held them as long as we could. Make them pay for this. Cross turned to Dr. Sullivan. How long until the weapon is in position? 4 hours, she said. And the target? The HFY forward base at Kepler, 442, 50,000 enemy troops, and their best warships. Cross nodded. Do it. Show the galaxy what happens when you attack innocent humans. In the asteroid belt, a small ship began moving toward enemy space. Its name was the USS Horizon, and it carried humanity's greatest secret. The weapon on board was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The HFY thought they had won an easy victory. They had no idea that their actions had just signed their own death warrant. Humanity was done being the galaxy's victim. Deep inside the asteroid series, Dr. Kate Sullivan walked through halls that did not officially exist. The Dark Star Station had been humanity's biggest secret for 15 years. Even most government officials did not know about it. The facility was huge, carved out of solid rock and metal. Thousands of scientists and engineers had worked here, developing technology that would change everything. They called it the Prometheus Project, after the ancient Greek hero who stole fire from the gods. Kate stopped at a massive door marked with radiation warnings. Inside was Pandora's box, the weapon that would either save humanity or destroy it. Final systems check complete, reported Dr. Jim Watson, the project's chief engineer. All readings are green. The weapon did not look like much. It was about the size of a car, covered in cables and cooling systems. But inside was technology that bent the rules of physics. While other species had focused on bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had gone in a completely different direction. "How does it work?" asked Colonel Alex Price, who would operate the weapon in combat. Kate smiled. "Other species think in straight lines. They build bigger plasma cannons or stronger energy shields. But humans think differently. We ask, what if we change the rules completely?" She led him to a computer display showing complex equations. Pandora's box creates controlled black holes. Not the kind that destroy everything around them, but small ones that we can aim and control. Alex stared at the screen. Black holes. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It is, Kate admitted. But that is what makes it so effective. The weapon creates what we call a dimensional fold. It tears a hole in space itself, then folds that space around the target. What happens to whatever gets caught in the fold? It stops existing. Not destroyed, not vaporized. It simply ceases to be part of our reality. Alex was quiet for a moment. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. How big is the effect? That depends on the power setting. At minimum, we can take out a single ship. At maximum, double quotes. Kate paused. We could make an entire star system uninhabitable. And you are sure I can control it? The weapon requires human intuition to operate. Other species think too logically. They would try to calculate every variable, which would take too long. Humans can make intuitive leaps that other minds cannot follow. Kate was right about that. During testing, they had tried to program alien AI systems to operate the weapon. Every attempt had failed. The device required split-second decisions based on incomplete information. Only human minds were flexible enough to handle it. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the USS Horizon moved silently through space. Captain Amy Watson commanded the ship from her small bridge. The Horizon was not much to look at. It was designed for stealth, not fighting. "How long until we reach the target?" she asked her navigator, Lieutenant Tom Davis. 6 hours to the edge of the Kepler 442 system, Tom replied. The Kethver base is another 2 hours beyond that. Amy nodded. The mission was simple in theory, but nearly impossible in practice. They had to get close enough to use Pandora's box without being detected by the most advanced military base in Kethver space. "Stealth systems are working perfectly," reported Chief Engineer Lisa Brown. "Their sensors are designed to detect energy signatures from conventional weapons. They will not see us coming." That was the key to the plan. While other species had built faster ships and bigger guns, humans had perfected the art of hiding. The Horizon could slip past enemy sensors like a ghost. Back on Earth, President Cross stood in the Situation Room, watching displays that showed fleet movements across the galaxy. The Kethver were preparing for their next attack. Intelligence reports suggested they would hit 3 more human colonies within the week. "Status report on Operation Prometheus," Cross said. Admiral Ben Carter consulted his tablet. "The Horizon is on schedule." Weapon deployment in 8 hours. What about the coalition? Still debating, said Secretary Park. The Zephorians want to form a study committee. The Valdris say it is not their problem. The other species are too. Scared to speak up, Cross felt angry but not surprised. The galaxy had watched New Austin burn and done nothing. 200,000 innocent people had died, and the coalition's response was to schedule more meetings. Sir, said a communications officer, we are receiving a priority message from Commander Morrison on Nexus Prime. Jake Morrison appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and frustrated. Mr. President, I need to warn you. The Kethfer are requesting permission to establish permanent bases in human space. They claim it is for our own protection. Protection from what? Cross asked. Pirates, supposedly, but we both know the truth. They want to finish what they started at New Austin. What did the coalition say? Jake's expression grew darker. They are considering it. The Valdris representative actually suggested that humans might benefit from Kethfer guidance. They think we are too primitive to govern ourselves. Cross closed the connection and turned to his advisors. How long have we been members of the coalition? 30 years, Admiral Carter replied. 30 years of following their rules, paying their fees, and asking politely for help. And when we needed them most, they abandoned us. Cross looked around the room. No more. After today, the galaxy will understand that humanity is not helpless. On the horizon, Colonel Price ran through the final checklist for Pandora's box. The weapon had been modified to fit inside the small ship's cargo bay. Every system had been tested and retested. Nervous? Asked Captain Watson. Terrified, Alex admitted. This weapon could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. If it works, we become a major player overnight. If it fails, it will not fail, Amy said confidently. Human engineering has never let us down before. Alex hoped she was right. In 3 hours, they would find out if 15 years of secret research would pay off. The Kethfer had destroyed New Austin without mercy. Now it was time to show them that humans could hit back just as hard. Dr. Sullivan monitored the mission from her control center on Ceres. Every piece of data from the horizon appeared on her screens. The weapon's power core was stable. The dimensional field generators were working perfectly. Dr. Sullivan, said her assistant, are you sure this is the right choice? Once we use this weapon, there is no going back. Kate thought about the images from New Austin. Burning buildings, destroyed homes, and 200,000 graves that would never be dug. The galaxy has treated us like children long enough. It is time they learn to respect us. The countdown had begun. In less than 3 hours, the Kethfer would learn what happened when you attacked innocent humans. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had teeth. The USS Horizon drifted silently at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Amy Watson stared at the massive Kethfer base through her ship's sensors. The enemy facility was enormous, bigger than some cities. Hundreds of warships floated around, it like angry insects. Target confirmed, she whispered into her microphone, beginning final approach. In the ship's cargo bay, Colonel Alex Price made his final preparations. Pandora's box hummed quietly, its systems ready to tear a hole in reality itself. He had trained for this moment for 5 years, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to do. Weapon systems online, he reported. All readings normal. The Kethfer base was a monument to their military power. Gun platforms the size of skyscrapers pointed in every direction. Energy shields that could stop planet-killer weapons surrounded the entire complex. General Vekmer had built it to be unbeatable, but the Kethver had never faced anything like Pandora's box. Beginning dimensional fold sequence, Alex said. His hands moved over the controls with practiced skill. The weapon required perfect timing and absolute concentration. One mistake could destroy the horizon along with everything else in the system. Space began to bend around the target area. The effect was invisible at first, but sensitive instruments on the base started showing strange readings. HFY technicians stared at their screens in confusion. "Alert! Unknown energy signature detected," shouted a HFY sensor operator. General Vekmer rushed to the command center. "What kind of energy? Where is it coming from?" "Unknown, sir. The readings do not match any known weapon type." Alex watched his instruments as the dimensional fold grew stronger. Space itself was becoming unstable around the target. In 30 seconds, the effect would reach critical mass. After that, nothing could stop it. "Sir," the HFY operator's voice was panicked now. "Space-time distortion reaching dangerous levels. Recommend immediate evacuation." But it was too late. The fold collapsed on itself, creating a controlled black hole directly in the center of the HFY base. The effect spread outward like ripples on a pond, but these ripples tore through reality itself. The base simply vanished. Not destroyed, not blown apart, but erased from existence. 50,000 HFY troops, their most advanced warships, and weapons that could crack planets disappeared in an instant. Where the mighty fortress had stood, there was now only empty space. But the weapon's effects did not stop there. The dimensional fold created a permanent distortion in space-time. Any ship trying to enter faster than light travel in the system would find their engines useless. The HFY reinforcements rushing to help were suddenly trapped in normal space. "Impossible," whispered General Vekmer from his flagship at the edge of the system. He watched his forward base disappear in real time, but his mind could not accept what he was seeing. "General," said his aide with a shaking voice, "our warp drives are not responding. We cannot jump to hyperspace." For the first time in his military career, Vekmer felt fear. His species had conquered half the galaxy through superior firepower and technology, but this was something beyond their understanding. "All ships, retreat to the edge of the system," he ordered. "Maximum conventional speed." Meanwhile, Captain Watson activated the Horizon's communication array. The message she sent was broadcast on every coalition frequency and hijacked civilian network in the galaxy. Every species would hear humanity's words. The transmission was simple but powerful. It showed the HFY base before and after the attack. The images spoke louder than any words could. President Cross appeared on the screen, standing in the Oval Office, with the flag of Earth behind him. His voice was calm, but filled with steel. "People of the galaxy, you have just witnessed humanity's response to the unprovoked attack on New Austin Colony. 200,000 innocent civilians died because the Coalition failed to protect them. We asked for help through proper channels. We followed all the rules. We were ignored." The image switched to footage from the New Austin attack. Burning buildings, fleeing families, and the crater where the hospital had stood. "This is what the HFY did to our people. This is what the Coalition allowed to happen. We are done asking for permission to defend ourselves." The scene changed back to Cross. "The weapon you just saw represents 15 years of human research and development. While you dismissed us as primitive, we were working. While you treated us as unimportant, we were preparing." Jake Morrison watched the broadcast from his quarters on Nexus Prime. Around the station, aliens stood frozen in shock. The species that had laughed at human weakness an hour ago were now staring in silent terror. The HFY forward base contained 50,000 troops, and their most advanced weapons, Cross continued. "It no longer exists. The spatial distortion will prevent faster-than-light travel in that system for the next 50 years. Cross leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. "Humanity makes the following demands. First, immediate cessation of all hostile actions against human territory. Second, full recognition of human sovereignty in our colonial space. Third, a formal apology from the Coalition for failing to protect human civilians." The President paused, letting his words sink in. "These demands are not negotiable. Any further attacks on human worlds will result in similar responses. We have tried peace. We have tried diplomacy. Now we speak the only language the galaxy understands. The transmission ended with an image of Earth, peaceful and blue against the stars. But the message was clear. This beautiful world had just proven it could defend itself. On Nexus Prime, the Coalition emergency session was chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages. The Zephyrians demanded to know how humans had developed such technology. The Valdris called for immediate military action. Smaller species huddled together, afraid of what would happen next. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood calmly in the middle of the storm. When the room finally quieted, she spoke in a clear voice. The Coalition had 30 years to treat humanity as an equal partner. You chose to see us as primitive children who needed guidance. When we asked for protection, you ignored us. When our people died, you formed committees. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of representatives who had dismissed her for years. Humanity is no longer asking for your approval. We are informing you of the new reality. Any species that threatens human lives will face the consequences. Elder Mordain of the Valdris spoke first. This weapon threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. It must be controlled. Controlled by whom? Lisa asked. By the same coalition that watched New Austin burn. By the species that called us too primitive to deserve protection. The Kethver ambassador, General Kexmore, stood up with shaking hands. This is an act of war. The Empire will not tolerate such aggression. Lisa smiled coldly. Your Empire just lost its primary forward base and 50,000 troops. You are in no position to make threats. Dr. Zixala of the Zephyrians floated forward. We must study this technology. The scientific implications are enormous. The technology belongs to humanity, Lisa replied. We developed it, we control it, and we decide how it is used. For the first time in galactic history, no one argued with the human representative. The species that had dismissed humanity as unimportant now hung on every word. Jake Morrison received a priority message from Earth. President Cross appeared on his private screen, looking tired but satisfied. How are they taking it? Cross asked. They are terrified, Jake replied. The Kethver are demanding an emergency military response, but no one wants to be the next target. The Zephyrians want to study our technology. The Valdris are calling for negotiations. And the smaller species, they are asking if humanity would be willing to provide protection services. Cross smiled for the first time in weeks. 30 years of being treated like children, and now they want our help. Tell them we will consider their requests. But first, they need to recognize our sovereignty. The galaxy had changed in a single day. The species that no one feared had become the power that no one dared to challenge. Humanity had learned the hard way that respect was not given freely. It had to be earned, and sometimes it had to be taken. 6 months after the Kepler 442 demonstration, Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the Coalition's Grand Assembly Hall, but this time was different. Representatives from across the galaxy stood as he entered. The human section was no longer a small corner with tiny chairs. Now it occupied a place of honor near the center of the room. Jake still remembered the day when other species had laughed at human requests for protection. Today, those same species waited quietly for him to speak. The Coalition Security Council will now hear the human proposal for galactic defense reform, announced Coordinator Veltar. Even the ancient Valdris showed respect in his voice. Jake stood at the main podium, the same place where he had been ignored for years. The irony was not lost on him. Thank you, Coordinator. Humanity appreciates the Coalition's willingness to listen. In the months since the demonstration, everything had changed. The Kethver Empire had signed a peace treaty within 2 weeks. Their military expansion completely stopped. General Vekmer had been quietly retired, and his replacement spoke of cooperation instead of conquest. President Nathan Cross sat in his office on Earth, reading reports that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Trade agreements with 12 species, technology exchange programs with the Zephyrians, defense contracts with smaller worlds that wanted human protection. The economic impact has been incredible, reported Secretary Linda Park. Our GDP has grown by 40%. Every species wants to trade with us now. What about the weapon program? Cross asked. General Alex Price, now promoted to head of strategic defense, answered from the secure screen. Pandora Station is operational. We have 3 more weapons ready for deployment, with plans for 12 total by next year. Cross nodded. The weapons were spread across human space, hidden in asteroid bases and stealth platforms. The galaxy knew they existed, but not where they were located. That uncertainty was part of their power. Any problems with the other species? Some grumbling from the Valdris about upset balance of power, Price replied. But nothing serious. They are too smart to push us. On the new coalition flagship Unity, Captain Amy Watson stood on the bridge next to representatives from 15 different species. As the ship's human commander, she had authority over operations that would have been unthinkable before. Captain, said her Zephyrian science officer, we are receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. Pirates are attacking a trade convoy. Amy checked the tactical display. 6 pirate ships against 2 cargo vessels. In the old days, the coalition would have formed a committee to study the problem. Now, they had better options. Set course for Rigel. Maximum speed. Yes, Captain, replied her crew, a mix of humans and aliens working together. The Unity was humanity's gift to the coalition. Built with both human stealth technology and alien engineering, it could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours, carrying enough firepower to handle any threat. When the pirates saw the coalition flagship appear, they surrendered immediately. No one wanted to fight a ship that might carry human weapons. Back on Earth, Dr. Kate Sullivan worked in her new laboratory. The Prometheus project had evolved into the Human Advanced Research Division, with facilities on 12 worlds. Scientists from other species came to study human techniques, though the most sensitive projects remained classified. Dr. Sullivan, said her assistant, the Zephyrian delegation is here for the quantum physics conference. Kate smiled. 6 months ago, the Zephyrians had considered human science primitive. Now they sent their best researchers to learn from humanity. The breakthrough that created Pandora's box had opened new fields of study that other species could barely understand. She walked to the conference room, where a dozen of the galaxy's brightest minds waited. Welcome to Earth. I hope you are ready to think differently about physics. The meeting that followed would have been impossible before. Human scientists shared selected theories with alien researchers, while keeping the most dangerous discoveries secret. It was a careful balance between cooperation and security. Commander Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, received a message that made him smile. It was from Captain Ryan Hayes Jr., son of the officer who had died defending New Austin. The young man had just graduated from the new Human Defense Academy. Admiral, the message read, I request assignment to the New Austin Memorial Station. My father died protecting that world. I want to help make sure nothing like that ever happens again. Morrison approved the request immediately. New Austin had been rebuilt as a fortress world, with defense systems that could stop any attack. It served as a memorial to the people who had died and a warning to anyone who might threaten human colonies. The Kethver had learned that lesson well. Their new ambassador, a moderate named Velkan, had spent months negotiating trade agreements instead of making threats. The warrior species was slowly changing, forced to adapt to a galaxy where strength came in many forms. We understand that humanity values peace, Velkan had told Morrison during their last meeting. The Kethver wished to learn from your example. Morrison had accepted the words, but humanity kept its weapons ready. Peace was good, but only when backed by strength. President Cross stood before the Earth Global Assembly, giving his annual address. The hall was packed with reporters from across the galaxy, something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Humanity has come far in the past year, he said. We have gone from being ignored to being respected, but with that respect comes responsibility. The president outlined humanity's new role in galactic affairs: protection for smaller species, mediation in conflicts, technology sharing with peaceful civilizations. Earth was becoming what the galaxy had always needed, a power that protected the weak instead of conquering them. We will not become the bullies that the Kethfer were, Cross continued, but we will defend ourselves and our allies with all the strength we possess. In the asteroid belt, General Price watched the final test of humanity's newest weapon platform. This one was different from Pandora's box. Instead of destroying targets, it could disable them completely, leaving ships and bases intact but powerless. Perfect results, reported his chief engineer. The neural disruption field works exactly as designed. Price nodded. Humanity now had options beyond total destruction. They could stop threats without becoming monsters themselves. It was a balance that other species had never managed to find. The test was observed by representatives from the Coalition, who had requested to see humanity's non-lethal capabilities. The message was clear: humanity could disable enemies just as easily as destroying them. Surrender was always an option. On Nexus Prime, the weekly Coalition meeting proceeded with remarkable efficiency. Decisions that once took months of debate were now made in hours. Having a species capable of enforcing those decisions made all the difference. The piracy problem in Sector 7 has been eliminated, reported Admiral Morrison. 3 human patrol ships were sufficient to restore order. Excellent, said Coordinator Veltar. What about the territorial dispute between the Altari and Centauri? Both sides have agreed to human mediation, Morrison replied. We expect a peaceful resolution within the week. The galaxy had learned that humanity offered more than just weapons. Human diplomats thought creatively, finding solutions that satisfied all parties. Human engineers built things that other species thought impossible. Human soldiers fought with skill and honor, protecting the innocent while defeating the guilty. As the meeting ended, Morrison looked around the assembly hall. Representatives from dozens of species worked together, united by the knowledge that someone finally enforced galactic law. It was not perfect, but it was better than the chaos that had existed before. That evening, Morrison stood in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the trade routes. Human colonies grew and prospered under the protection of weapons that could reshape reality itself. Human diplomats worked to prevent conflicts before they started. The galaxy no longer saw humanity as primitive or weak. They saw humans as the species that had changed everything, the people who had taken fire from the gods and used it to light the way for everyone else. Jake thought about Captain Hayes and all the other humans who had died before the galaxy learned to respect them. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity was no longer the species that no one feared. They were the species that everyone trusted to do the right thing. The stars looked different now. No longer cold and hostile, but filled with possibilities. Humanity had found its place among them, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The galaxy was safer because humans were strong enough to keep the peace, and in hidden bases throughout human space. The weapons that had changed everything stood ready, ensuring that the peace would last. The species that no one had feared was now the guardian of them all.